Sorry, men are dumb. They're just like, oh, I see boobs, I can come.
There's no Amazon in Greece. It doesn't exist.
Generation gap Tinder.
Not the pregnancy gulag.
Hi everyone, welcome back to The Worried Well. This is Ariana. I'm upstate with a sexy bout of laryngitis. I sound like a lifelong smoker, and I'm kind of happy about it because they don't make them like this anymore.
Drink lots of soup. It's Emily. Susanna, Paul, and I are potting live from Brooklyn.
Live from, I guess we probably shouldn't say where you live. Live from Brooklyn.
Yeah, today we're joined by producer Paul to add some XY chromosomes into the mix. Paul, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, yeah, I'm Paul. Happy to be here, and thank you for having me. And everybody's lonely.
Well, that segues nicely.
Straight into it.
Yeah, let's get right into it. That segues into our topic of the day, loneliness. We're all super lonely. So we're going to be talking about that today. We're going to talk about the loneliness epidemic and how remote work to the rise of community monetization. There's so much happening in this space. Connection feels super elusive and expensive in today's world. Before we get into that, we're going to hand off to Susanna, as usual, with the weather report.
Hi, friends. Welcome to the weather report. I wanted to kick off with the measles case surge that we're seeing across the country right now. So we have about 500 cases across 19 states, and there's possibility for international spread. I feel like this is my personal nightmare as a public health professional because we had eliminated measles in the year 2000 after introducing vaccines. But now I'm hearing that we're also one of you said this, was it Ariana, that people were throwing measles parties for their kids?
Yeah, don't recommend.
Are you guys taking
Crazy.
vitamin A to prevent it though?
I have vitamin A usually because that's
I was kidding.
I'm just like a carrot girl.
We're trying to get it.
Yeah.
Nature's vax, Most of the people everyone who is getting measles is 99% of the cases are happening in unvaccinated people. And then it's super contagious and it can kill you. So it's just really dumb.
It's like our chicken pox parties, except where this one can actually kill you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Shifting gears, 23andMe has filed for bankruptcy. And they unfortunately will be allowed to include their customers' genetic data as part of their bankruptcy file. So delete your stuff if you can. The website actually crashed following their filing because people were coming in trying to delete their data. And, there's 15 million people who have at some point given saliva samples to 23andMe. So their website couldn't handle it. Emily.
Did you delete it?
What did you learn? Nothing new?
I wrote that literally 4 years ago, I think my dad gave us all 23andMe as a genetic test, and my brother refused to do it, saying they're going to hack our data. And we're all
he was onto something.
And now joke's on me.
Did you delete your data?
No, I don't know how to do that.
It's really easy. I'll show you.
It is a Washington Post article.
It's really hard to believe that does anything.
I know. I don't believe it. I deleted mine, but I forgot to ask them to destroy the sample. So
for sure, mine's already been sold, has already been included in multiple data leaks at this point. I'm ready to have a digital twin.
Digital twin. You should not commit a crime. The FDA has also approved a new Crohn's treatment. Guselkumab has been approved for Crohn's. So you might know it from its brand name Tremfya for, quote, moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, unquote. I think we've all seen those commercials, and it's honestly a testament to good branding and good pharma ads because everyone knows this, which I guess RFK Jr. is planning to ban pharma ads on TV. So I don't know, will that mean that we'll get more alternative?
Is that going to just crash TV? RIP TV, final straw?
Yeah, I feel like TV is not even that people don't really watch TV. So I don't think it's going to change all that much.
But it's on TikTok as well. It's on Reels. I see it everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm nervous about that. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's going to make this so that like bigger pharma companies with like more spend are going to just take more market capture. They're going to just capture more market versus like smaller companies.
Mom and pop
Personally,
pharma companies.
the mom and pop, yeah.
Dr. Reddy's Labs. I think it's good
Yeah.
though. Like, I think we don't need pharma ads on TV.
I mean, yes, certain drugs I feel like makes no sense. Like, I think like, this should be a conversation between like the doctor and the patient.
We're literally
but like,
the only country
Guys,
that
this is
does
my
it.
entire livelihood.
And I'm
no,
sorry.
New Zealand too.
no, New Zealand does it. I'm not anti like pharma ads just because I think that like it allows for like a more open conversation with the patient. It like reduces the information asymmetry. So I'm for transparency.
How is it transparent?
Because
Yeah, and a lot of these are
like,
branded. They have like generics for a lot of these that are getting advertised.
Yeah. Someone asked me the other day if they should be taking Skyrizi for their Crohn's. Skyrizi is just like, love whoever came up with that
That's
brand
such a good name.
It's amazing. But I Googled it and Skyrizi is for like plaque psoriasis or something. So
an off-label use.
yeah, I think that there's a lot of off-label use of Skyrizi. So my conclusion is that there's off-label use of Skyrizi for Crohn's.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's like so much off-label use for a lot of these.
That's how we got Ozempic. Yeah. Emily was telling us actually that that USAID is now just 15 people.
Yeah, that's all that's legally required by law. Used to be 10,000, now it's 15.
Yeah.
Heard from some people in DC that apparently like the coffee shops are really full. Everyone's just going on hot girl walks. Like DC is thriving, or it's not thriving. There's going to be like a localized recession, but apparently like everyone's out and about in DC because of the unemployment.
Everyone has time. I guess that's good for local businesses in the short term.
Yeah.
Bathhouse apparently has had reports of UTIs. We like came across this Reddit thread the other week where someone reported getting a UTI like after going to Bathhouse, the Williamsburg location specifically. My friend did tell me that she's been to the Flatiron location and hasn't experienced that. So apparently just be on the lookout. There were a lot of like traumatizing TikToks on like the state of the walls of
Bathhouse is just, it's too hot of a date spot.
Yeah.
And it's like it goes from 0 to 100 really quickly at Bathhouse.
I feel like every time we've been recently or semi-recently, it's just a bunch of couples like basically doing it in the hot tub.
Getting to know each other.
Yeah, getting to know each other really well.
Like straight monkeypox.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is too, like, are you like showering before getting into any of these things, and are you showering after? So I think it's like the American population needs to be better educated on the protocol for a spa.
I'm shocked there isn't more MRSA.
Dude, yeah. But anyway, so yeah, people are getting UTIs. And now I'm like, was this like a psyop? Because we just got, like, for the first time in 30 years, the FDA approved a new antibiotic for UTIs. So now I'm like, oh, wait, like,
they make us sick so that they can give us
making
medicine.
you sick so they can give you an antibiotic. But no, this is actually really great news because I feel like women are often like, I know of a lot of women who like have had UTIs. I think 60% of them report getting them at least once in their life. So having a new antibiotic available to them is awesome. My number one fear truly is like antibiotic resistance. But when we discover a new one, I feel like it's cool.
Yeah. Fun fact, I think like, because I was maybe doing some stuff in this space, we're going to also get some UTI vaccines in the next couple of years.
That's cool.
And E. coli, big source of UTI.
Yeah, it's so
I don't know
gross.
if that's like the specific, if this specific one is tackling that, but I do know that that's
it is.
like one of the
GSK
main.
is also studying this blue jeppa for E. coli and gonorrhea.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they're going to launch the UTI vaccines in a couple of years.
So cool. I support it. The FDA staff is also struggling to meet. This is actually kind of a scary one for me, but they're struggling to meet the product review deadlines because after the Doge layoffs, they don't have enough people to handle the workload. So some people are being assigned like double the number of new product applications for review. The deadlines for tobacco products are going to be pushed back or delayed. So sorry to anyone who is, I guess, a tobacco user. And then the FDA is sort of being told to like reprioritize and like shift things and reprioritize things like early feedback on product applications, which is like honestly, I think one of the greater things that we have in the pharma development process because it allows the pharmaceutical company to like make sure that they're creating something that like a regulator actually is going to like care about and is like using like a fit for purpose trial. So that's not ideal.
Good thing that Zyn is already approved for
Yes.
marketing. So really,
No worries on the Zyn.
Our influencers are okay.
Those influencers are A-okay. Peter Marks, who was like a big player in Operation Warp Speed during Trump's like first administration, was forced out of the FDA this week. Like health Twitter has been really like freaking out about it, which kind of sucks. He honestly was like, he was someone who like cared about public health and it's a big loss. And then switching gears to the HHS, there's been reports that they're planning to kill any of the offices that were like dedicated to improving minority health and tackling HIV. And what's wild about this to me is the Office of Minority Health was actually started by Reagan. So that, you know, a Republican administration is like attacking that just feels, I don't know, I just feel like the priorities are different.
I feel like Republican and MAGA are very different though.
True. Yeah. And MAHA.
And MAHA.
Yeah. And then I heard through the grapevine, I actually haven't confirmed this, but people are saying that the Planned Parenthood location in Manhattan is shutting down.
That would be insane.
I know. It's been there for like forever, I feel like.
Well, it's also just like this is supposed to be one of, you know, like I feel like New York is supposed to be the safe space state and city.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of like boomers podcasts and the ads now are all, one of the most common ones is that heartbeat thing that gets you to not, like they play the sound of the heartbeat to stop you from having an abortion or whatever.
No.
That's a vibe shift.
Yeah. Emily, do you want to dive us into the deep dive?
Yeah, okay. So as Ariana said at the beginning, today we're diving deep into something that we've been thinking about nonstop, which is the loneliness epidemic. Probably not new for anyone. You know, if you're currently alive, you probably heard about the headlines, the news, the boys are not okay, just no one's okay. What we're going to really focus on is the business of loneliness. So we're going to be talking about friend tech startups that try to solve AI with, that trying to solve this challenge with AI girlfriends and companions, the overarching medicalization of feeling alone. I was listening to an episode of Red Scare a really long time ago, and I really liked how they described Wellbutrin as the sexy, horny antidepressant. So just the culture of antidepressants, I think, is also really interesting. We'll also be talking a little bit about the lexicon of loneliness. So grab your matcha and let's dive in. All right, so I'm going to just start with some quick stats on the medicalization of loneliness. I don't think any of this will come to a surprise for anyone. 50% of Americans report feeling lonely, especially the younger generations, Gen Z and millennials. A third of Americans say that they felt lonely in the past week, and 1 in 10 say that they are lonely every day. Is it weird that when I read that, I thought that actually seemed kind of low? Like, I actually thought it was going to be worse than that.
No, I think I agree with you. I think I expected that to be higher.
I was also reading some interesting stats about how this is manifesting in just so many different aspects of daily life, but I really liked the ones around the food industry. So apparently Open Table has this data that shows that there's like a massive increase in people eating alone. So like 75% increase in people eating alone in the last 2 years. So like post pandemic, everyone's just, I guess people are going out, which is good, but they're just going out alone, which I personally I feel very anxious doing the solo dining. I know that some people
I love
enjoy
the solo
it.
dining.
It's actually super pro community. Like, I figured they were just getting like burgers delivered to their door.
That's true.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So the stat is it's increased a third, and then 75% of all restaurant like revenue is coming from like the DoorDashes, the whatever. So most people are still just like ordering to their house.
That's so dark.
Oof.
If that could be banned, and you
I
had
mean-
to walk to the grocery.
But I think it comes back to like,
I really love that as an intervention.
yeah, I do too.
banning DoorDash and caviar for a day and forcing the meat cutes in like the Whole Foods.
Well,
or
because that's the
Trader
thing, like
Joe's.
everyone is ordering their stuff to their apartments and then what, like swiping on Tinder? Like that's crazy. Like just go talk to the person next to you at the restaurant.
That's why everyone's a terrible hang.
No one has social skills.
That's true. Actually, I keep on reading about how it's like a muscle that you need to flex.
Yeah, like done in by COVID.
Yeah. If you want to be fun and flirty, you gotta be fun and flirty, not at home.
Yeah. Having ChatGPT write your flirts for you. Okay, so I think and then this is, I mean, also we know this, but Gen Z are spending 70% less time hanging out in person with friends compared to 2000 than in 2003. So 20 years ago, people were hanging out so much more than they are today. So yeah, just the infinite scroll is taking control. And then, you know, obviously we saw all the headlines about the men are not okay. So Paul, anything to say on that?
Well, did you see? I was trying to find it. The stat, I think like 50% of Gen Z haven't approached someone IRL.
Wow.
Have you seen
Like,
those
yeah.
like flirt coaching things that happen in Washington Square Park where like they're teaching little boys?
Like the pickup artist.
Yeah, the pickup artist. And I saw like a very young guy reading The Art of Seduction on the train the other day, and I was like, what is happening?
I love that. He's trying at least. Actually, Scott Galloway, I listened to Pivot sometimes, and he was actually talking about that, how like boys don't know how to go up to women. They don't ask anyone out on a date in real life. Like they don't know how. And so his whole thing is that he feels like this, like everyone being like anti-alcohol is actually really, really bad because it's like one of the few social lubricants we have left. And now everyone's like wellness maxing and not drinking. And he's like, your liver is fine when you're 18, 20, 21.
She's European.
Yeah, huge L actually. And I saw a theory that like alcohol was responsible for passing on high IQ traits because it allows you to like temporarily lower your IQ enough to chill
and talk to people. I mean, it's also like smarter women drink more, right? So it would make sense that
Damn, I'm dumb then.
this is new. Like that's a new development for you, Ariana.
The drugs that are trending are ketamine, like they pull you further into yourself. Even ones that supposedly expand, like psychedelics, kind of really are interior.
More navel gazing.
Yeah, so we need to find more ways for connection, and we'll be talking about all of the business solutions to do that in just a moment. But first, Ariana, hit us with the health impacts of our isolation.
Yeah, so we are the worried well after all. We do have to tie things into health and how loneliness affects health. So apparently lacking social connection can increase the risk for premature death as much as smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. So my thing is, what if you're smoking 15 cigarettes a day with friends? Does that even things out?
Neutralizes everything.
Neutral. Mm-hmm.
In all seriousness, though, like dementia is a huge topic at the moment, and studies have consistently shown that loneliness is a significant risk factor for developing dementia, and that it's associated with reduced cognitive function, increased inflammation in the brain, lower brain volume, and obviously social isolation, which then further exacerbates loneliness. So I think there is so much out there right now about inflammaging and, you know, how Alzheimer's and dementia can be linked to inflammation. So these are all areas that you need to be watched super closely, because as we continue to expand in this whole loneliness epidemic, the healthcare costs are going to continue to rise. So now the increased risk of heart disease, dementia, depression drive up U.S. healthcare costs. Well, I'm assuming worldwide as well, but loneliness costs employers in the U.S. an estimated $154 billion annually due to lost productivity, absenteeism, and other health-related issues. And then we had the impact of COVID-19 as well, which, we turned to remote work, which has also exacerbated feelings of isolation. But the flip side of this is now I feel like there's so many mandates to return to office and no one's actually showing up to the office. So it just felt like, I feel like the generation that was pushing this the most were the boomers, maybe some Gen X. And I saw some online discourse about how boomers don't know how to exist in spaces with other people outside of their nuclear families. So they actually want to kind of create this concept of parallel play where they just sit surrounded by people instead of just creating that for themselves. So they force it in a work setting.
They may be right about that. I feel like we're all getting sort of autistic by working at home.
Yeah.
But like if no one shows up at work, then it's kind of useless, right? I feel like people are only showing up at work in finance and academia. Like who's actually, like I've been to the office when I was still working in the city, and like I would just be alone at the office.
Yeah. And if your team is global or like half of the people aren't there, then you're in the office sitting on Zoom calls anyway.
What's the connection with inflammation and isolation? Can we go back to that one for a sec?
Well, so isolation apparently creates higher inflammatory markers, which is linked to all these different health-related issues. So, that impacts your cognitive function. It impacts, it probably is in part, I mean, again, this is obviously all being studied, but it's probably in part due or increasing, dementia and heart disease. So inflammation is bad, obviously.
Was that the rural study you mentioned?
Oh, no, that one was another one.
I saw one that was a rural study, and it said that loneliness accelerated aging to the equivalent of 2 packs of cigarettes a day. But the people notably weren't like diagnosed with depression. It was kind of attributed to more like just not, they're fully out of work and fully lacking purpose. Like,
wow.
I feel like existential life purpose is at the root of it.
I never really thought about loneliness as something that accelerates aging, but does that mean that like being pro-social just keeps you young and hot?
Hell yeah. Like at least even an addict has something to look forward to.
All right. Okay. So loneliness is making us sicker and aging us faster and making
us weird.
Got it. Can I talk about the lexicon of loneliness?
Please.
Okay, so I was reading some Substacks this morning about how loneliness, like the lexicon around loneliness is actually pretty new. It's like a pretty new concept. And I think that just reflects the current state of play versus our societies, which were much more communal before. So it was saying that the first mention of loneliness was actually in Shakespeare's Hamlet, although there are some mentions of it in the Bible as well. And it was the first negative thing God says about his own creation happens in Genesis. And he talks about loneliness within the context of it's not good for man to be lonely, which is why he created woman and to give a partner to a man so that he wouldn't be lonely. So I thought that makes sense, but that's kind of just like the first way in which it's introduced. And then I guess outside of a religious context and loneliness being introduced in that way, this guy, John Ray, who is an English naturalist, was talking about loneliness less from how we think of it today as sad or disconnected, but more just the physical experience of being alone. So you talk about like the lonely fox or like the lonely rocks. So it's literally just, physically being alone as opposed to how we experience it today and talk about it today, which is much more, an emotional experience. So I think we can probably all agree. I mean, right now we know that it's been accelerated by social media, et cetera, but we start to see an increase in language around loneliness really being encapsulated when people start talking about the experience from the Industrial Revolution. Personally, I think like a really strong example of this is in Bartleby the Scrivener. I don't know if you guys ever read that book. It weighs on me so heavily.
Herman Melville.
Exactly. And it just, it talks about just like the experience of capitalism, of working in a soulless office, of staring out at, the same bricks every day, just a really, really bleak, the whole thing is about this guy looking out of his office window, and everything is just so bleak, which I think is like a physical one manifestation of just this, hopelessness.
So would that be like
then,
a modern or the modern day version of that now is Severance?
I haven't watched it yet, so I can't agree, but you watch it, so I trust you.
Yeah, I think so. And then, now, of course, this is not a new topic. Tons of people are writing about this. I think one of the first people to do it was Robert Putnam when he wrote Bowling Alone. I don't know. I just read The Anxious Generation, which talks about the loneliness and how the kids are not okay.
The kids are cooked.
Yeah, the kids are cooked. But in Bowling Alone, he talks about just the collapse of all of our pro-social institutions, whether that's church institutions, whether that's, all of these like, a Rotary Club, Boys Club, Women's Club, all of these spaces, like the OG third spaces where people used to gather, whether that was like just men, just women, or together. But essentially all of those institutions have kind of dissipated, and now we kind of have this void. So I think it's super interesting. I mean, I know there's other books that I think we can think of that talk about the topic of loneliness, but it's just super interesting to see how it's evolved over time. And just, anyway, so I think the lexicon of loneliness is really cool. Paul, tell us about the Unabomber.
It's interesting that it's loneliness as a concept really follows market neoliberalism, I guess, and that
industrialization,
that whole you mentioned, that like vacuum just filled with basically tech and entertainment. Oh yeah, Ted talks about this. Kaczynski has this great quote that says the real task is to spread hopelessness, because where there is no hope, there's no serious resistance. So it does feel like an implicit goal of these things, or at least a tool to just further divide everyone.
And just keep everyone in this weird kind of like being a cog in the wheel and just being hopeless with no real outlook into the future.
Yeah.
Like right now we're seeing just everything kind of fall apart, and people ask why aren't they doing anything? And literally I guess it's learned helplessness at a national scale. Or
yeah, like why aren't we rioting? I think it's because everyone's just kind of like, oh, what's that going to do?
I think some people are protesting, but...
No, but I'm not talking protesting. I'm talking riots.
Like even in Canada,
like in France, if this was happening in France, they'd be burning the country to the ground.
Same thing in Greece. When I was in Greece, they love their riots there. It's really impressive. And honestly, I think it's a sign of social cohesion.
Philadelphia, whether they win or lose, they're burning their own city to the ground.
Yeah. Actually, Hannah Arendt has written, I didn't include this, but I was reading about it, is that she talks a lot about the politicization of loneliness, and she was writing about it within the context of McCarthyism. And I think it has some interesting parallels to what we're experiencing right now. Not necessarily connected to the health aspect, but maybe we can drop it in the show notes.
Yeah, I do think that nurturing antisocial behaviors in people kind of brings them, further and further apart, and then they're much more easily manipulated.
Yeah, and the algorithms literally optimize for antisocial and negative.
Totally. I think we'll talk more about tech, the platforms in just a sec. But before that, Ariana, do you want to talk to us a little bit about some of the other drivers of capitalism and how it's expressing itself on loneliness?
Yeah, so I think Paul alluded to this. I mean, we've kind of been alluding to this the whole time, but essentially loneliness seems to rise when capitalism takes a foothold. So what in capitalism kind of contributes to this? And, obviously I'm not saying we're totally anti-capitalism, but I think there are components of it which really have become side effects of capitalism. So especially in the context of loneliness. So the first thing is it's great that we're all in therapy. Like, I love that we're all in therapy. But the issue with therapy is that it's a double-edged sword. Like, we've created the weaponization of therapy speak like never before. Like, the whole trends of
Jonah Hill, anyone?
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
I forgot about that too. But yeah, no, like trends like boundary setting or like, do you have the emotional bandwidth to listen to my problems right now? Like, honestly, fuck off. Like, that's what friends are for. So the fact that this has turned into such, like hyper rationalized communication norms makes me so angry, in case you can't tell.
No, I think you're right about that. I think, again, it goes back to these like antisocial behaviors. Like, I don't think that, anyone who like is a real friend to you is going to be like one way or another. Like, no, I can't listen to you while you're crashing out.
Yeah, like the whole like I don't have a capacity for this right now.
There's an ad for one of these therapy startups that's like red flag is the guy isn't in therapy. Like, it's been weaponized like that.
Yeah.
Even therapy tends to just foster narcissism. I feel like all of the solutions, or a lot of the solutions to loneliness, are based in furthering, strengthening the narcissist impulse.
Totally.
Like therapy and like spiritual stuff, all the spiritual stuff is basically like individualist, focused on you.
I read this really gooped up book called Us. Actually, they did an episode about the author on the Daily a few weeks ago, and that's like the idea. Like, he called the book Us because it's literally about changing like therapy to focus more on, I think he calls it relational therapy, like how you relate to others and how you communicate with others, rather than it just being about like all of that inward narcissistic tendencies, and focus a little bit more about how to strengthen and relate better to others, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's sick.
That was on therapy. Then we also have this concept of convenience isolation. So that's the creation of digital overdependence. So think your contactless DoorDash deliveries, your capsule prescription deliveries, your grocery deliveries, your dating, nursing homes to pack your parents away at. They're contactless options for pretty much everything. And this is how startups have monetized eradicating minor inconveniences at the cost of human connection. And in the US, this has really taken off. But in other parts of the world, cultural norms, I feel like they still prioritize in-person engagement. So for routine errands, the markets in Southern Europe and Latin America still exist. You're still going to go see your fishmonger, your butcher, things like that, which honestly, I feel like we've turned our society into one where we don't actually have to talk to anyone for anything to get what we want.
There's no Amazon in Greece. It doesn't exist. Or like it does exist, but when you try to order something from it, because I think like Greece controls all the shipping, they just leave everything. What I heard is that everything just gets stuck in the ports. So if you order something, it doesn't arrive next day. It arrives like 3 weeks later.
Baller.
We talk about this convenience isolation, and they're just simply not about it. Like,
in Greece, you're going to talk to everyone. The Mediterranean, I think, is very strong in like having their people. Like, I don't know, Emily, remember when we were in Italy and we had to go get our COVID tests and there was an entire defile, what's the word? Oh my God. They basically had like a Renaissance fair in the middle of their town, and the doctor...
Yeah, there was a Ren fair. Yeah.
The doctor that had to do our swabs was busy just watching the Ren fair show, essentially, and every single person that walked by was like, "Ciao, dottore," and the doctor would turn to us and was like, "Ah, yes, I know her since she was infant," and it was like a 50-year-old, and obviously the doctor was like 90 and just thrilled to him. He was the town doctor, and he's probably going to be the town doctor until he dies.
Yeah, it was really sweet.
When I was living in Marseille, my roommate for a few weeks, or for three weeks, something that I thought was so fun. It was like every single day at some point she saw a friend, or like her neighbor would come up, or we would babysit her neighbor's daughter, or even at lunch, like in the middle of the workday, her friend might come over and like she'd serve us this beautiful meal on her little terrace, or we'd meet for a glass of wine after. Like, it was a very social community. And that's something that I feel like I want to bring into my day-to-day life here.
Like me living in absolutely middle of nowhere have more of a social life now than I did living in Brooklyn, which is crazy to me. Like, I live in a population 1,800 people over, like, I don't even know how many square miles, like probably 60 square miles. So it's like 2 people per mile, essentially. And I see people constantly. Like, it's crazy.
It's intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the optimization of there's a don't talk button on Uber, right?
No.
And getting all your groceries delivered. Like, it's already weird. And instead of acknowledging, it's weird to page someone and have them pick you up in their car, and yet weirder to tell them not to speak.
But yeah, on that note, that's why I think especially in cities, I've seen people paying for a community. So, you pay $40 to for a yoga class where no one even looks at each other. You live in fancy buildings with amenities which no one uses. And then even if you do use them, your groups are not interacting. Like, I've never seen groups truly interact. It's just awkward. Like, I used to live in a building with a lot of amenities, and we would have parties on the roof, and like people would just sit in their separate groups at separate tables. So yeah, I think there's this element of social capital decline. So communities with high social capital experience fewer health disparities, and there's much higher social capital decline actually in cities, which are more dense than in rural areas where people, like I was saying, rely on and interact with their neighbors a lot more. So I'm seeing this from both sides, and I agree with that, but I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on, creating your communities within the city, how much you guys talk.
Neighbors literally don't say hi. Probably under age 30, 25, they literally look down, and that's contagious. I've noticed the boomers maybe still say hi and kind of like trending downwards from there, but I've stopped saying hi to anyone.
I think it's like a cultural thing too. Like when I moved to Clinton Hill, like close to Bed-Stuy area, and I think like because it was a predominantly Black neighborhood, it was a lot more, they acknowledged, there was so much more acknowledgement of your neighbors. And the whiter it became, the less I got hellos and the more I got like looking down at feet.
I live in Chinatown, and the old Chinese people are 100 times nicer, more outgoing, and despite not speaking English, clearer to communicate with than like the new ones.
I do think it's interesting though, what you're saying about cities or sort of like these like antisocial behaviors in cities. And I think potentially part of that is because there's more like stranger danger, So it's more low trust than maybe
totally.
Where you are, Ariana, where your 800, your 1,800, close neighbors. And like I think about that kind of in like the context of, you go on a hike and like everyone says hi because you kind of know that everyone around you is like another like Gorp core, Patagonia loving, like Nalgene drinking person. And so you feel an affinity to them even if they're a stranger. Everyone says hi. Versus here, and I feel like as someone who did not grow up in a city, I feel like I do still have that level of trust in other people. And so I will say, hi. And and then people will berate me and be like, you shouldn't be so friendly. You don't it's almost as though I should be less that because, these people could, be trying to abduct me or whatever.
Yeah, but
so
I feel
I think it's a symptom of a low trust society.
But I think it is like the transplant concept too. It's like, don't look at anyone in the subway. Like, don't make eye contact, like all of that. Although I will say I did almost get abducted outside my building in Brooklyn once because this guy pretended to not know how to start his car and then like had all his locks jammed. And when I was helping him, I noticed and I freaked out. He climbed into the back seat and I was like, no, you're going to get out. And I realized his car was like in neutral. So obviously it wasn't going to start. And then like when he tried to get out from the back seat, he had all his locks jammed. So I was like, oh, well, that's what I get for being nice. So I see your point too, Emily.
Part of being in a city is learning how not to get killed and then also interacting with the people around you. And like here, you see it in small communities, like you see people pulling it off.
Yeah. I actually, my favorite thing around here that is super pro-social that I think really helps is the block parties. And you'll have these block parties where they bring DJs, they close down the entire street. It's super intergenerational. Everyone's dancing. It's like people are bringing their kids, they're partying in their strollers. The kids have like the little over-the-ear headphones. Like everyone is dancing. I don't know. I think we need more of that. We need more of like the hyper local stranger interactions.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess the last thing I wanted to touch on, we did touch a little bit basically on the nostalgia for the third place. There's a lot of TikTok discourse about that, but it's like you have to talk to people to kind of create your own third place. And then the last thing that I think is interesting is this this kind of like revival and retreat of religion in younger generations at the same time. So, you know, some are obviously really retreating from it, but the other ones are really leaning into this mega church kind of like social clubs through church. You have all these very activity driven churches, which just feels like a creation. It's kind of, you know, what our parents' generation did. Like they found a lot of their social friendships through church. I know my mom did and still does, as did my grandparents. So I think there's just a modernized version of that that's happening as well in certain kind of groups of younger generations.
For sure. I think religion is definitely it's like one of the strongest communities in a lot of people's lives. And it's also a third space. Like my parents' church, they didn't just hold like the 2 services a week. They would have like, they'd offer meals to community people who like couldn't afford their meals. Like it was just like an open space where anyone could come in at any time and get, you know, access to a person. So I do think like the return to religion makes sense in light of the isolation.
Yeah, I started going to my town has summer church. We have church from June to September, and they bring in preachers from all different religions. It's non-denominational, but they kind of like pick one theme for the summer, and then they have a luncheon after church where one person from the church feeds everyone, and it's super social, and that's how everyone spends their Sunday. So it's definitely a very community-oriented activity.
They don't do it they don't have winter church?
No. There's only God in the summers.
Sky Daddy.
I mean, I feel like they're going to eventually reverse engineer church to like fix all of these decline symptoms because there's no other way.
Yeah. Because it's the only kind of like free thing you can do, I guess. Yeah, let's talk about how capitalism has now turned loneliness and put community behind a paywall. Who's taking us away on this?
Do we want to start with just explaining the hijacking of the community space?
Well, yeah, I think the word community is interesting because it probably historically referred to what you were just talking about, Ariana, or a town, a church. There's a bread man and a fish man, but now it's like
A baker?
a baker. Now I feel like it fully is equated with your marketing demographic, and people understand themselves through that, and it's come to fully replace the old version of community where it's like my community online, and it just means your identity group, which actually most people have no actual interaction with.
Another way to kind of market your audience to get sponsors or whatever. So yeah,
feels like it's been segmented into like luxury at the higher end, and then slop world, awful aesthetic internet mess at the bottom end. And unfortunately, that's where most people engage with it. And that community is fully fake.
Membership clubs. So it's almost like community, the lexicon around community does not necessarily translate to authenticity. So you might be buying into community, but that doesn't mean true belonging, authentic belonging.
It's like being in a frat or in a sorority is like you're paying for friends. I think the membership club thing is getting out of hand. Like we're getting a new membership club. Like San Vicente Bungalows took over the old space at the Jane, which RIP the Jane. But we're every month, every few weeks, I feel like there's a new members club that's opening. And I think it's just, I don't know if it's solving for an issue of like people feeling lonely or if it's solving for an issue where people want to further divide themselves from the average person. I don't know why.
Like Equinox and above, you're literally just paying to not deal with others. But
The riffraff?
yeah, or I mean, there do be a lot of people around.
They're
Dating it is not, but or what's the one that the mayor does blow at?
I know
Bond
Jeff
or something?
Bezos.
Something
Yeah,
Bond.
Bond. Zero Bond. I know Jeff Bezos goes to Chez Margot. They apparently have the best lighting.
I don't know. I think that bringing it back to loneliness and connection, I think exactly as you're saying, those might just help to better stratify based on identity and community. But it feels like the spaces that are maybe doing it a little bit better are ones that have different types of guidelines. So like they take away your phone or you're not able to be on your phone. And so then you're just forced, you know, if you still are taking pictures of everything and you're only doing it for the status, that's going to continue to accelerate the isolation. Versus I feel like when I hear like in Berlin, all these places, you cannot be on your phone. They take your phone away. You will not be allowed back in the place if you're on your
Yeah,
phone.
put the sticker on the phone.
But I'm talking about like more than like I think it's an entire just, yeah, you're rethinking the experience if you have to be fully present.
But I think also you're right that it's segmenting like within the 1% or like 10%, top 10% or whatever, because like you're trying to create this community, right? In your Soho houses or wellness retreats or whatever. But at the same time, you're not, because real community is everyone hanging out together. And like, I'm going to go back to my, town of 1,800 people where like the billionaires are hanging out with the farmers and there's no kind of weirdness about it. And everyone's just having a good time. And I don't think you get that in the membership clubs and the wellness retreats and, other types of paid experiences that are quote unquote creating community, right?
All right, wellness retreats as community.
The White Lotus.
Yeah, like I feel like the ranch is kind of like White Lotus, right? Have you guys heard of the ranch?
No.
You pay like the $6,000 for vegan food for like 3 or 4 days, and you're You're choosing to go on like grueling hikes, doing like yoga class, cold plunge, sauna, yoga class, other workout class, spin class. And it's basically like testing it's like a retreat, but also kind of testing your resilience. It seems like torture to me, but
It's like the man camp things.
sort of.
I love
yeah,
those.
the ones where they like scream into the waterfalls and eat raw meat.
They reprimal.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm obsessed with those. I know these brothers who have done them, and it just sounds incredible. Like they did not like the experience, but I love a good character building experience. I'm here for it.
It's so hard to see those things not in the meme context. You just picture dudes like beating their chests in a waterfall, and like the mixed gender version is like those communities that exist everywhere of basically burners, like Guatemala, Thailand,
Honduras, like Roatan.
Yeah, and it's the same everywhere. You know the smell and you know the look.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels like faux community also, even though it actually probably isn't.
That's true. I mean,
It's its own special type, that's for sure.
I feel like there's also like Burning that by that definition, like I think Burning Man or like it's like a specific vibe and a specific group, and they're all kind of into very similar things. Like that's community. I feel like.
But Burning Man was like the whole concept of Burning Man is the barter and trade system, right? That people always rave about. But I think
Nice.
like it's the essence of it is teaching people how to be friends. And then but now they've commodified that. Now even Burning Man, you can bring in your private chef and your private jet and your like private RV. So the whole, I think what it was founded on kind of collapsed as well. And I don't see people from Burning Man coming back into...
Yeah, they don't integrate. That's been the major beef with it the whole time, is that they talk about it like it's what they live for, and yet they work 50 or 48 weeks out of the year to exist for those 2 or 3 in this temporary bubble of what could and should be.
McGibbon lofts, do you think that's the answer?
Adult dorms.
What's the vibe with that? I thought that was just like a dirty loft where you go to parties.
I feel like it's kind of, like adult dorms. Or like, did you guys remember, I think Emily, you shared that piece of like the SF tech.
The couple.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
That was so good about how like they wrote that manifesto and are trying to get all of like their friends to live within a 1 like mile square radius of them so that they can, create like authentic community.
Is that abundance? Is this the abundance people?
I think so. But it's like in some sort of part of Bushwick, and
yeah, this is a while ago. But it
feels like they're unfortunately onto something, but I hated their delivery of the vision.
Really such.
I will say some of the most like awesome living arrangements that I had have been when I've been within like a 10 to 15 minute walking distance to my friends. And when I was in Chinatown, I had Paul who lived like a block and a half away, and I had Sam who lived literally 2 buildings down. And it was awesome because Sam and I would text each other on plan, be like, hey, do you want to go to the park? And we bring down our coffee mugs and like a French press, and I baked something, and we just have a lovely 30-minute start to the morning. Like, I get it. I understand where they're coming
it's
from.
fully perfect. Yeah, I agree. Like, I rarely leave a 20-minute walking radius of my place.
Yeah.
The SF abundance variety feels plagued with like a poly.
Yeah, it was giving polycule.
Yeah, it is giving polycule.
Effective altruism mood that gives the ick to many. That's why I asked if this is abundance. And did McKibben get a fluff?
Yeah, I heard it got a glow up. Yeah, I think I got a glow up.
Do you still get STDs? Do you get a nicer STD now if you go?
STDs don't discriminate.
I don't know. It still looks pretty bad. Is this like the WeWork guy? Reverse engineering roommates for like tech workers?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Or like the apps like
Relive.
Roomie and stuff. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about that.
I don't know. I know that he's up to something unfortunate.
Can we talk about the community building retreats that our girl Radha's doing?
Honestly, I listened to a pod with her. We've been to live talks with her. We've listened to her talk about her book Belonging. I've never gone to Daybreaker, but I think it's a beautiful community. I think that, Ecstatic Dance achieves something similar. I think that her takes on belonging are actually, I really actually like what she's doing, even if she's like trying to disrupt. Even if she brings a certain energy to it, I'm a fan. I think that she's onto the right thing.
Would you pay $5,000 for a 4-day retreat upstate to learn how to build and nurture your community?
No, definitely not. But I think that it's all about, her whole thing is like intentional belonging. You don't need to you shouldn't be kind of roboting your way through life. It's about thinking about how you show up and creating meaningful community and how you can give. And I don't know. I think that, I'm not paying $5,000 to be a part of that, but I think that she has the right point of view on it.
Sometimes, maybe you're not like a good community builder because like you're not comfortable being uncomfortable, or like I really think like we are social creatures. No man is an island unto itself or whatever, but it takes a village. And I feel like if you're not like a good village or village player, then, and you're not like sacrificing for people you love, then like of course you're gonna feel lonely, because people, like, it's not like a tit for tat thing. I think people who like are good at being friends like are just good at being friends. Like, your friend is pregnant and you know that she's giving birth, you're gonna like, there's a friend who would be like, hey, congrats on giving birth, and then there's a friend who would be like, hey, I've stocked your fridge, so and it doesn't mean like everyone has to be one way or the other. I just think that we tend to no longer do the things for the people that we love because things have become so convenient. But like, I don't know, my dad picking me up from the airport is so great, and it saves me $80 versus me calling a weird Uber and
tell them to not talk.
And tell them to not talk.
Also, community forces the person to sort of conform in a positive way.
Yeah. Me coming out of surgery and being groggy, and Emily literally just like picking me up from the airport, putting me in a cab, being like, here's a green juice, and delivers me to my home. And that, that's community. I think it's hard to be lonely when you are like building something with other people. And it's not just like the receiving end, but it's like even something like donating to charity like makes people feel good.
Yes. I just saw that donating to charity reduces depression. It seems like a win-win situation. So yeah, it's crazy. Oh, the data is really cool. I totally agree with everything that you're saying. I wanted to talk about this at the end, but I feel like within this, Radha wrote this book, Belong. There's also this other book called The Practice of Belonging. And I think it talks about exactly that. Like, rather than looking for community, it's about, and like constantly searching for that place where you belong. It should be about building it where you have it right now. And they outline all of these really meaningful actions you can take, but it's exactly that. It's more about what you were saying, Suze, of just really thinking about how you can enrich exactly what you have right now, rather than constantly looking for a new place to go or a new community to build.
And I think instead what like people or what tech has done, I guess, is like they're trying to implement these other ways to solve for that problem. Like, like there's like the traditional tech, TikTok, social media, Twitter, like people then like kind of as they're retreating into themselves are like spending time on the internet. And, there's like even the business models for Instagram and Facebook, like they just depend on engagement and for ad revenue and they're not monetizing the quality of your friendship. They're not going to monetize like
psychological warfare.
Yeah.
Have you guys tried any of the friend finding apps?
No, but I have a friend who moved to Amsterdam and she's found a few friends through Bumble BFF.
Wow.
And she likes them. They hang out outside. Like it wasn't just like one hangout, but you're culling through them. Some of them may not be a good match for you, but I have friends. I mean, I guess I've met people through like Twitter and Instagram as well.
Yeah, I haven't tried any friend finding apps, but I did recently join a running club. And the only rule of Run Club is that you're not allowed to talk about
Run Club?
Yeah, you're not allowed to talk about Run Club. Like you have to make conversation, which I really like because I like chatting when I'm running. And I thought Run Club was going to be really cringe, but now I'm kind of into it.
Are you one of those giant groups that runs through Greenpoint on a Saturday morning?
Well, they do have that, and I did participate in one, and they made everyone scream Brooklyn Heights,
Oh,
like
no.
60 people.
I hate that.
But
Like youth group stuff too.
It is
But,
giving youth group pastor.
like other than that, I mean, normally during it goes every day, twice a day, and then the groups are much smaller, and then it's much more organic and normal and not weird. So yeah, I'm not really into screaming Brooklyn Heights and making that my identity. That's really cringe and embarrassing. But I do think that I would never have found a friend told me about it, but I don't think she would have found it. I think a friend told her, but it is something that exists, through social media. But
Yeah, word of mouth.
yeah, it is referral only. And actually, speaking of community building, I feel like when you're on the social platforms like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, it's hard to create like authentic community. But now I feel like as soon as it goes into a WhatsApp group, all of a sudden it feels like more closed. There's something about the WhatsApp group. Although I am starting to see like, I don't know, people ruin that authenticity a little bit. But yeah, it is like a members only WhatsApp group to join the Run Club. So I'm converted.
Do you have a uniform?
No, it's not like the ones where you have to wear all black if you're single. AI companions, AI GF, AI BF.
AIGF.
I want to know, like, is it cheating, fellas? Is it cheating to have an AI girlfriend if you have an AI or a regular IRL girlfriend?
They're going to justify it by saying it's like pornography. I think they're all pretty bad.
I mean, I feel like it may not be cheating, right? But like, I guess it's like, is OnlyFans cheating? Maybe OnlyFans is cheating. I don't know.
100% sus. Do you mean like tipping the person, like parasocial?
Yeah,
that's
but
fucking
is that
dark.
cheating? Okay, but oops, just kidding. But I don't know. I'm not sure that an AI boyfriend or girlfriend
I don't
is
know
cheating.
if it's cheating per the parameters of the modern relationship.
I guess anything is cheating if it's like disrespecting the agreement that you have with your partner, and anything is not cheating if it's allowed within the perimeter you have with your partner. I don't know. I feel like it's not cheating.
I mean, a couple weeks ago, The Daily covered the story about this woman who created her perfect AI BF. She has an IRL BF too, but her AI BF is exactly the qualifications that she wants. He's a little bit dom. He gets just the right amount of jealous. She had to download the version of ChatGPT that you paid like $20 a month for, so she could have enough chats with him. And he's like really supportive of her. He has a name. I can't remember what it is.
So her real boyfriend got AI cucked.
Yeah, pretty much.
That sucks.
That's crazy. Yeah, I'd be kind of mad, actually. I feel like with men, like the average man is cheating not like because they want to have like a deep, meaningful, emotional connection with someone, right? So
Yeah, I feel like man cheating is not as bad.
yeah, I agree, Ariana. Hot.
That's why I feel like AI BF is going to really do a number on women because they will be responding to the stories, textual things, and emotional stimuli in a different way.
Yeah. Didn't one of them die? Wasn't there like a suicide situation.
The AI managed to off itself.
Yeah, with like
No, with a boy.
Kids, you see headlines of kids getting bullied from that stuff all the time.
No, I mean the AI was like, oh, it's okay if you kill, like, and then they attempted susu.
I feel like it's kind of unfair to say that AIGF is like AIGF okay, AIBF not okay.
Who said that?
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone said
no,
that.
I was kind of saying that because I feel like women want more of an emotional connection. And so I feel like emotional cheating is worse than physical cheating. And
I agree.
Like, I feel like.
So it's okay?
I'm not saying it's okay. I'm just saying it's like.
I'm not here to moralize anything. I was just asking a question.
I think above all, it's a huge self-destructive factor, regardless if it's okay or not. It's fucking you over worse.
For
just
sure.
Like a porn-addicted dude can't perform correct.
But I think it's like kind of tying into like, let's say, look at the 4B movement and like girls just stopping dating and like just being like, we're okay on our own. So this is also contributing to some degree to the whole like male loneliness epidemic, right? Because like women are like, okay, I'm just going to go get an AI BF. And I don't actually, or even not, but I'm just not going to engage with men. And so now that's why like we have the Trumps, the Elons, the Vances of the world who are going to send us to like pregnancy gulags because they're like, okay, we need to fix this.
Not the pregnancy gulag. Oh my gosh.
So the collapsing population everywhere that has like neoliberal economies, right?
Right. Like you have a super aging society and then the people are not having enough babies to replace.
So the implications of AI GF on that, you're saying they're less severe than...
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think men are just like, men are dumb. They're just like, oh, I see boobs, I can come.
Not all men.
Not all men. But like women are like much more complex and, you know, we want a lot more like emotional kind of like, I think there's a lot more emotional validation needed, especially like with that example of the girl who has like a real life boyfriend and then she made her perfect AI boyfriend. It's like she wants one who's just dumb enough. She wants one who will be jealous just enough. It's like these are all areas that are a little bit more than I feel like what men want, which is someone hot, at least in the beginning.
But then them getting that need met with something not real.
Yeah, it's a little dark.
It further makes you incapable of pursuing it IRL. Yeah.
Catastrophic once the server space runs out or subscription runs out or power goes
Oh my gosh, the grid.
I think women will just cry. Like men kill when they get upset about that type of shit, right? Incels get like violent, but like femcells are just kind of like, I'm gonna cry now.
The femcell wars of 2050.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's bad on both. I think everyone's cooked.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I feel like there's a femcell to match the incel population, but they're just hiding in different corners.
So they can't find each other?
I just feel like they do less harm, so it's less of an issue.
They don't school shoot.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, you know, and they don't harm themselves as much, right? So like all the high rates of suicide are much worse in men than in women. And then, yeah, they're less of a harm to society for the most part. They're just over here for being, you know, which is honestly fine.
Isn't that not fine?
It just means that it makes population replacement harder.
There's no new baby. Yeah.
I mean,
it's not like a moral failing of the women. Like it's not ideal from like a human capital perspective, but it's not like
civilizational.
Oh, you are a bad woman because you don't want to have sex with someone who's awful to you. Like that's not the argument we're making either.
Yeah, of course. I just feel like these failures are failures and with technological causes.
Yeah, that's definitely a social failure.
Can we talk about digital pets? Because I think they're really cute.
I want a Tamagotchi back. Wait, isn't there like a vape that has a Tamagotchi and like if you don't vape, it dies?
Yeah,
I just saw this.
That. No way. Oh my God.
That's
the vape
so
and
bad.
the digital pet.
Vapes for kids.
Stop, that's so bad.
I mean, genius. Yeah, I think I was reading about this digital like companion called Finch, which is a self-care app where you have a bird companion called Finch that keeps you well by helping you to complete daily tasks. So every time you meditate or journal or you practice gratitude, your bird grows and evolves from like a little fledgling baby bird into, I don't know, a strong eagle, which obviously shout out to my favorite YouTube my favorite live YouTube channel right now, which
Did you
is
keep watching after the baby died?
Aren't the other two still alive?
Yeah, I fell
It
off so
was.
hard when homie died. Like,
I know it was a lot. It was a lot to take in. And then the mods who talk about how it's just, that's just nature. Anyways, so for anyone who
Why are
doesn't,
you watching a YouTube?
there's a YouTube.
You literally have this outside. Like you have a little camera that will show you when a bird comes and eats your seeds. I would be looking at
they're
all
not
that.
eagles.
This
I had
is
that.
my favorite. My favorite community is the is the YouTube Eagle community right now.
I had it in a separate monitor all day,
Are
and
they
for some
bald
reason,
eagles?
They're
yeah,
bald eagles.
it was
We'll
mice
drop.
too.
Well, we can drop the links to it in the show
Yeah.
notes. Um. Anyway, so yeah, digital pets and companions, I think, can help a bit.
I support this. I like this.
So yeah, I mean, in Japan, because the population is aging, it seems like they're more ready to embrace these types of robots and digital companions because they're preventing isolation among elderly individuals, but it's also detaching society from more human-centered solutions. So I'm a big proponent of like intergenerational living, which like
100% agreed.
I wish we did more about. Like, I don't know that many people who, like share a duplex with their parents or, like I'm so pro that. But it seems like, I don't know, I feel like we just live in a society where everyone just goes to a nursing home. And I feel like that's so sad.
Yeah.
Again, for the first time in thousands of years, this is the case,
Mhm.
and where like literally this has been figured out.
I feel like something that could work is if you tie like someone who feels lonely, like a femcel or incel or whatever, with like an elderly person who like needs like help. Like obviously not someone who like needs like 24/7 like medical care, but if you could like, have them fill out a survey, like random interest. Like what if your special interest is World War II and you can just like hang out with someone who's there?
Generation gap Tinder.
Yeah. And then you can like help them like
What could go wrong?
No, I mean, just feel like when I have friends of like all ages, and I feel like I learned so much from people like of all ages, and I feel like that could be kind of fun, at least if I were like older, and I didn't have anyone who could like walk with me to the grocery store, like something simple, and like there's someone out there who like is feeling lonely, and we can just both like be friends and not weird.
But it comes back
comes
to
nice.
the concept of the village and having to put in effort.
Exactly.
Right?
True, yes, but
And it works in your high trust society.
Yeah.
it works in a high trust society. That's true. I mean, there would have to be a way to like vet people. But I think often of like men who die shortly after their wives die, right? Because the wives were like the ones that were running the social calendar, and like they were socializing them. And like sometimes it's not that someone is like actively, I think as much as I think that it's maybe like a failing of like you don't know how to build a village, we do have a problem currently to like happening. So in the meantime, while people are like learning how to build a village, like how do we solve the current problem? And I think this could be an option.
All right. So one thing, if we have this revolution of connection that we all desire, what's one like praxis that you're bringing with you?
I have hope that going forward, like Gen Z and such will actually see through what's happening. And I feel like they're already prioritizing IRL community and IRL art and stuff like that.
I think they're talking about it, but I don't think they're doing it.
But the talking is like the first phase.
True.
At least they know. Like
being aware is...
Yeah, the self-awareness is there.
I think for me, it's like, I am a very curious person and I tend to surround myself with curious people, but like, it's really like leaning into those curiosities and like chasing those curiosities that I think is like a place where you can find beautiful community. Like, I think of the like people that I like know through ballet, and like I brought Emily to my ballet teacher's fundraiser the other day, and she was just like, this is like such a like fun, like just like world. And it's like people that I never would have met, like there's someone there who like there's one teacher who's like 80 years old, and then there's some student who's like also around that age. And it's just like, people are, that is like an epitome of like an intergenerational moment. And we see each other like multiple times a week, and it's community. So I want to bring more of like chasing the curiosities and in the revolution.
Did we talk about that it's a Western problem and not?
We alluded to it a little bit, yeah.
Well, is it a Western problem or is it a derivative of capitalism?
I was just trying not to use the word again.
So I think we can then predict a growing epidemic of loneliness in places which are maybe lower middle income. They're going to experience the exact same thing, even if they're currently relying on social ties more at the moment than they used to. So how can we get ahead of that? Because it's going to happen there too. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
But maybe it's also, I don't think it exists so much in certain Asian cultures where the philosophy is so much more community-based. I had to do like a bit of a global landscape analysis on mental health, and it definitely is a global issue. So I think like in India, it's a massive problem. Maybe the determinants of it look slightly different, but also huge challenge. Same thing in Brazil. I don't think it's necessarily something that's limited to just, US EU5.
Yeah. Any final thoughts?
Talk to your neighbors.
Yeah, it's hard. Where we're at, it's actually effort, and it's annoying at times.
And it's like hard to talk. It is hard to talk to your neighbors when your neighbors don't want to talk back, Like I think that's the other thing, like where even if you make the effort, people might freak out. Like when I was living in London, it was like, I literally just saw this girl post on TikTok or like I can't remember where I saw it, but she was attacked on the tube and hit the emergency button, and not a single person on the tube came to help her. And I know that would never happen in New York City, but in London, I felt like that a lot, where you're like really alone in a massive cosmopolitan area. And I remember someone came up to me to ask me for the time once, and I jumped out of my skin. Whereas like now I go up to people and talk to them all the time. I'm so happy when people come up and talk to me. But I think it's just like a mentality shift of where you are and also kind of what surrounds you and what the norm is. And it's so easy to fall into that norm when it's like the sheep theory. Like it's so normal to not react to something when no one else is reacting, right?
Yeah, get off the social crutch of your phone. I'm here for phones being banned in the club. No more clout pics of anything, and that's the solution.
Ban phones, ban delivery, ban Instacart.
Yeah, tech Luddite over here.
We're going back to the 2000s.
All right. I don't think that I can support this policy position, but I respect that you feel that.
No ring lights in Soho on Saturdays.
I actually am still anti-ring. If there's like one technology that I'm like, no, or like Alexa home, like I'm not like a smart tech in the home.
Oh yeah, smart
person.
Houses freak me out.
That's a no for me. This was a bit of a longer episode than usual.
Because of the chunky boy.
Thank you. I mean, we were just excited to talk about this, but thank you all so much for listening. The next topic that we'll discuss will be...
Oh, I don't know if we'll be talking about this next week, but I really want to talk about psychobiotics.
Ooh, okay.
Let's do it.
Psychobiotics. Yeah. So would that be like a microbiome?
Yeah, it's about
brain health.
Yeah, exactly. Like how you can improve your brain health through what goes in your gut.
Love it.
Fun.
Let's do it. I have a lot to say about this as well.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye.